I was sipping my latte in my glass-walled office when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years. Courtney Green. My cousin. The same cousin who once stood in my tiny, one-room shop, leaning against the counter with a smirk, and said, "Cute little place you've got here, Hannah. But you know this isn't a real business asterisk, right?" I set my coffee down on the mahogany desk and let my eyes drift past my reflection in the window. Below me, the mall was alive, the soft hum of chatter, the clink of silverware from the food court, the warm glow of storefront displays. My mall. Outside my office door, I could hear the click of designer heels on marble floors, my assistant, probably coming to drop off the latest leasing contracts. The scent of fresh lilies filled the room, a detail I'd insisted on when I moved in here. Small luxuries I never dreamed I'd have back when I was fighting to keep the lights on in that cramped shop. The message from Courtney was short. "Hey Hannah, long time no see. Can we talk? I need some help." I smiled. Not the smug kind, but the kind that comes when life writes a plot twist you couldn't have imagined even on your best day. I tapped the phone screen, but instead of typing back, I swiveled my chair to face the panoramic view of the entire atrium. This was going to be interesting. 3 years ago, my world was a 600-square-foot boutique on the edge of Main Street. The walls were painted a hopeful shade of teal, the racks held hand-picked dresses and locally made jewelry, and the scent of vanilla candles lingered in the air. I called it Hannah's Haven. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That afternoon, the bell above the door chimed and in strolled Courtney, wearing a leather jacket and the kind of confidence you only have when you've never had to worry about bills. Her glossy hair was pulled back into a sleek ponytail, sunglasses perched on her head like she was too important to be here. She glanced around, lips twisting in amusement. "Wow," she said, dragging the word out like it needed time to breathe. "This is cute. But, Hannah, you know this isn't a real business, right? I mean, no offense, but it's like a hobby store." I froze, clutching a receipt in my hand. My cheeks burned, and my fingers tightened until the paper crumpled. "It's paying my rent," I managed to say. She laughed, not cruelly, but dismissively. "That was worse." "Sure, for now. But come on, what's the plan? Marry rich? Or just keep playing shopkeeper until you get bored?" Her words landed like tiny daggers, each one finding a place I didn't know still hurt. After she left, I locked the door and leaned against the counter. The shop was quiet, except for the ticking clock and the faint rustle of a dress swaying on a hanger. My eyes drifted to the photo taped behind the register, my grandmother, Evelyn, smiling as she handed me a small silver key on my 16th birthday. "Doors don't open unless you turn the key yourself, Hannah," she had said. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the key in my palm, my laptop open. I started researching wholesale buying, e-commerce platforms, retail leasing strategies. Every click felt like a spark. If Courtney thought this was just a hobby, she had no idea what was coming. I promised myself 2 things that night. 1, I would never again let anyone make me feel small in my own space. 2, one day, I'd make this cute little shop impossible to laugh at. I didn't know then that the path ahead would lead far beyond Main Street, and straight into the heart of the very building Courtney shopped in every weekend. The next morning, I opened the shop early. The air was cool, my coffee still steaming on the counter, and a fresh notebook sat beside the register. I titled the first page in bold, "Expansion Plan." It started small, finding better wholesale suppliers, adding online orders, posting more deliberately on social media. I taught myself photography late at night, using my phone and a desk lamp to make my products look like they belonged in glossy catalogs. But progress wasn't linear. Some days, I'd sit in the back office staring at my bank account, wondering if I'd just wasted another month chasing an impossible dream. Orders got delayed. A shipment of scarves arrived in the wrong colors. I learned to smile through impatient customers and negotiate refunds with vendors who barely answer my calls. The turning point came when I met Elaine Matthews, the owner of a high-end furniture store 2 doors down. She had perfectly coiffed silver hair, a sharp wit, and the kind of poise that made people listen when she spoke. One evening, as I was sweeping my sidewalk, she stepped out and said, "You've got grit, kid. That's rarer than talent. Come to my office tomorrow." Elaine taught me the ropes of retail leasing, introduced me to a local business grant program, and more importantly, showed me how to think bigger. She believed in my work ethic before I fully did. Within a year, I'd opened a second boutique in a small strip mall on the other side of town. I kept my social media modest, just enough to promote sales, never enough to hint at my growing empire. My family still thought I was getting by, and I let them. 2 years later, I made my boldest move yet, bidding on a cluster of struggling shops inside a mid-sized shopping mall that was losing tenants fast. Everyone saw it as a sinking ship. I saw a blank canvas. I poured everything into revitalizing it, bringing in trendy food spots, leasing space to local artisans, hosting weekend events. I didn't just rent space. I built a community. And with every new tenant, every customer strolling through, the mall transformed from a half-empty echo chamber into a buzzing hub again. By year 3, I wasn't just managing shops inside the mall. I was the sole owner of the building itself. The paperwork was signed quietly, the deal sealed without a single family member knowing. Even Elaine didn't know how much it meant to me when the final lease transfer came through. Sitting in my office overlooking the atrium for the first time, I rested my hand in my pocket and felt the smooth edges of my grandmother's silver key. This wasn't just business. This was turning the lock on a door Courtney never believed I could open. And now, she was about to walk through it, on my terms. 2 days after her text, Courtney showed up. She arrived wearing a designer blazer over ripped jeans, her blonde hair still as perfectly highlighted as ever. But there was something different in her face, a shadow of stress that no amount of bronzer could hide. "Wow," she said as she stepped into the lobby. "This place is gorgeous. I didn't even know you worked here." I smiled faintly. "Worked here. Follow me," I said, motioning toward the private elevator tucked behind the leasing office. We rode up in silence. She scrolled her phone. I watched the numbers climb. The doors opened to my floor, polished marble, soft recessed lighting, and a panoramic glass wall overlooking the entire atrium. Courtney's steps slowed as she took it all in. The bustling shops below, the polished storefronts, the scent of cinnamon rolls drifting up from the bakery. A young mother with a stroller paused to glance into a jewelry store, while a group of teenagers laughed near the food court. The mall was alive, thriving. My assistant, Rachel, appeared at the door. "The property management meeting's at 2, Hannah. I've set the files on your desk." Courtney blinked. "Property management?" I gestured toward my office. The space was warm but sleek, mahogany shelves lined with books on business and design, framed photos from my travels, a plush cream rug under a desk big enough to host a board meeting. A single vase of fresh lilies stood near the window, their scent mingling with the faint aroma of coffee. Courtney stepped inside, running her hand along the edge of the desk. "So, you manage them all?" I settled into my chair. "I don't manage it," I said slowly. "I own it." Her head snapped toward me. "You own this mall?" "Yes." I leaned back, watching her process the words. "Every storefront you see, every lease signed, every renovation, it all runs through me." She laughed once, short and incredulous. "Wait, you mean?" "I bought it 3 years ago. It was dying. Now, it's the busiest retail space in the county." Courtney's eyes darted to the window again, then back to me. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again like she wanted to find the right thing to say, but couldn't. She hesitated, her voice quieter now. "I didn't know. I mean, last time I saw you. You were standing in my boutique," I said, my tone even, telling me it wasn't a real business. The silence between us was thick. "I was wrong," she said finally. I didn't answer right away. I let her stand there, let the weight of the moment sink in. Outside the office, I could see a young man setting up a pop-up kiosk in the atrium, exactly the kind of small business owner I used to be. Courtney shifted awkwardly. "Look, Hannah, I need help. My interior design company's in trouble. I thought maybe you could help you." I finished for her, my voice soft but steady. She nodded.
Yes.
I guess I thought, maybe you'd understand. I let my gaze drift to the silver key on my desk. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. Doors don't open unless you turn the key yourself. I met Courtney's eyes. I do understand. More than you think. And for the first time in years, I realized I had the power to decide exactly how this conversation and her future would go. I stood, walking to the window so I could look down at the mall. The sunlight spilled across the atrium floor, catching the gold lettering of shop signs I had personally approved. This was my ground now. When I turned back to Courtney, she was still standing near my desk, arms folded, her weight shifted onto one heel. The confident posture was there, but the edges had softened. "I'll help you," I said finally. "But not the way you think." Her brows pulled together. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not handing you a check, Courtney. I don't believe in quick fixes. If you want my help, you're going to earn it, the same way I earned mine." She let out a short laugh, part disbelief, part discomfort. "You're serious?" I moved to my desk, picked up the silver key, and held it between my fingers. "Dead serious. First, you'll work with one of my tenants, a small, family-owned home decor shop on the first floor. They're expanding and need help with merchandising. You'll be there 6 days a week, 9 to 6, for 3 months. 3 months, she repeated, as if I'd suggested 3 years.
Yes.
You'll learn how to run a store from the ground up, the inventory, the customers, the late nights, the early mornings. And you won't be doing it for the paycheck. You'll do it for the education." She opened her mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. "Second, you'll create a business plan. Not just a vision board or a list of ideas, a real, detailed plan. I'll review it with you, tear it apart if I have to, and help you rebuild it into something that can actually survive in this market." Courtney shifted her weight again, her nails tapping lightly against the edge of the desk. "And if I do all that?" "Then," I said, leaning forward slightly, "I'll consider investing. But only if I believe in both the plan and the person running it." Her eyes narrowed, searching my face for any sign of a joke. "You really aren't just going to bail me out?" "No," I said quietly, "because no one bailed me out. And if I had been, I wouldn't be standing here today." For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then her shoulders dropped, and I saw something unfamiliar in her: humility. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." I set the silver key back on my desk.
Good.
"Then we have a deal." As she turned to leave, I called after her. "Courtney." She glanced back. I smiled faintly. "And try to remember, every door you walk through here belongs to me." She gave a small, almost sheepish smile before stepping out, the sound of her heels fading down the hallway. 3 weeks later, I passed the little home decor shop on the first floor and spotted her. Courtney was arranging a display of ceramic vases, her hair pulled back into a simple bun, no designer blazer in sight. She wore the shop's plain apron, her hands smudged with dust from unpacking boxes. She didn't notice me at first, but I saw the way she paused to chat with a customer, smiling, listening, carrying a stack of cushions to their car. She looked human. Over the next 2 months, I caught glimpses of her almost daily. Sweeping the floor before opening, negotiating with a vendor, laughing with a teenage cashier over spilled coffee. Each time, there was a little less of the old arrogance in her posture. One afternoon, she came to my office carrying a neatly bound document. "This is it," she said, placing it on my desk. "The business plan. And I think it's good." I flipped through the pages. She had done the work, the research, the numbers, the realistic projections. It wasn't perfect, but it was a far cry from the girl who once thought she could decorate her way into success without touching the ground. I looked up. "This could work. You've come a long way." Her smile was small but genuine. "Thanks. I guess I didn't realize how much I didn't know." When she left, I sat for a moment, running my thumb over the cool metal of my grandmother's silver key. I remembered standing in my first shop, hearing Courtney's laugh, feeling the sting in my chest. I remembered the long nights, the quiet victories, the way I had to turn my own key, again and again, until the right door finally opened. Down below, shoppers moved through the atrium, bags swinging at their sides. Children tugged at their parents toward the ice cream counter. Somewhere, a store played soft music over the chatter. I slipped the key into my pocket and smiled to myself. He once laughed at my little shop. Now, every step he takes in this mall, he walks on my ground.